This meeting of the City of Eureka Springs City Council will now come to order. The clerk will establish quorum.
D. Perky Pile. Joyce Zeller.
Here. I thought you said.
Terry McClung.
Here.
James DeVito.
Here.
David Mitchell.
Here.
Nikki Snyder. Here. We have 5.
Outstanding. All right. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Is it Mr. Weaver going to be here?
I hope he's on his way.
All right. Just to forego a lengthier meeting than we have, I'm going to do the state of the city now. So everybody just kick back, get you a glass of water, and relax. I bring this address to the citizens and City Council now at this meeting on the February the 25th, 2013. We were fortunate to have a very good year, 2012, in that our tourist attendance and tax revenue was up and our occurrence of misfortune was down. Our weather participated with us in that we had little to no flooding due to lack of precipitation. That did somewhat affect our water sports-based tourism, as most rivers and lakes were down several feet below the normal. Nonetheless, our visitors made the best of the bad situation and continued to visit our city for its natural beauty. All right, basically this report is going to give you a bunch of stats, which are kind of boring, but they are stats nonetheless of what our city did last year. We'll start with the police department. The police department has continued its community involvement as well as performing its law enforcement role. The department conducted several events such as the Special Olympics Polar Bear Plunge, which raised approximately $4,700, and there's Mr. Weaver. The Eureka Multi-Sport event, raising money for school special education department and raising money and food for needy families during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday seasons. The police department has also begun holding and sponsoring regional training conferences in an effort to attract visitors to Eureka Springs during the middle of the week. These classes are intended to draw law enforcement, other first responders, and their families from Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, and surrounding states. ESPD stats, not including officer-initiated incidents. The accidents investigated were 152 last year. Persons booked were 221. Calls for service was 2,251. Traffic citations 663. Incidents investigated were 645. Warnings issued were 614. Warrants and papers issued were 171. Warrants and papers served were 332. Total money processed by ESPD in 2012 is $215. Oh, these are fines and bonds. $215,021.59. Total fees collected $5,769.93. Parking fines collected $30,521.38. Total money processed is $251,312.90. Fire EMS, Eureka Springs Fire Department, is one of our other 24/7 city emergency entities, which employs 13 personnel. They also have approximately 20 volunteer firefighters throughout Western Carroll County. They have 4 stations in the city and 2 in the rural areas outside the city. Fire department classes given last year were emergency medical technician refresher class, emergency medical responder class, monthly CPR classes for general public and healthcare providers, quarterly fire extinguisher classes, yearly loading zone landing classes to promote helicopter safety, monthly volunteer and fire medical training. ES Fire Department events were Firefighters Union State Conference, host department for periodic training by the Arkansas Fire Academy, National Fire Academy, FEMA, and Arkansas Department of Emergency Management. Fire Department projects were Firewise Project to remove organic fire hazards from around rural homes, Business and Lodging Inspection Program used to ensure safety and visitors of employees, annual fire hydrant testing and maintenance. Pardon me just a second. Fire Department fundraisers were assisting the Miata Club with their annual festival, Muscular Dystrophy's Fill the Boot Fund Drive, Eureka Springs Fire Department in-house was annual hose testing of all lines to ensure safety during heavy use. weekly in-depth checks of all department equipment and apparatus, weekly in-house fire training for career staff, monthly in-house, that don't sound good, medical training for career staff. It had a squeak in it, Nathan, like it was locked up or something. Fire department stats, 2012 EMS calls were 1,537, fire calls were 137, total calls 1,674. In 2011, EMS calls were 1,298, fire calls were 106, total calls was 1,404. In 2010, EMS calls were 1,277, fire calls were 94, and total calls were 1,371. So they're up almost 300 from 2010. Parks and Recreation. The Parks and Recreation Department has authority over all parks, springs, gardens, and bodies of water related to the parks. Parks and Recreation Department regulates events in all the city parks by way of authorizing and issuing certain usage permits. They use the city tax and grants for projects in the various areas under their authority. Accomplishments for 2012 were retaining assistance from professional National Park Service facilitator for trails, applied for $50,000 trail grants from Spring Garden Avenue, and they should know the results of that by March 2013. Citizens voted for a 1/8 cent sales tax and use tax to fund Lake Leatherwood City Park improvements. They received a commitment from Community First Bank to put up the soccer scoreboard at the Lake Leatherwood fields. Boy Scout Keaton Boardman will build rock steps to the soccer field concession stands. Boy Scout Nathan Wilkerson is building a trail to Cardinal Spring. They received a grant to build a bioswale and rain garden at Cardinal Springs. A dog park advisory committee was formed and headed by Parks Commissioner Rachel Bricks. With CAPC support, Parks issued a new brochure combining all parks brochures into one. The ADA compliant kayak canoe grant work was completed last year. Installed LED light fixtures at Basin Park, East Mountain Lookout, Gadd Springs, and Sweet Springs parks. Public Works, our Public Works Department has the responsibility of keeping all of our potable water system intact and service to assure quality water for private and commercial customers. They are charged with maintaining and operating our wastewater sewer system. They work closely with state and federal regulatory agencies to assure the effluent meets the standards set forth to achieve maximum health and safety standards for the public. They're also charged with maintenance of our city streets to make service and substructure repairs as needed. Wastewater treatment status. Wastewater had a national pollutant discharge elimination system, and no discharge permits were issued without any major modifications. Both are now approved and will become effective March 1st, 2013. They repaired several sections of sewer main. Manholes were lined and or added. Our backflow program was restored and is being reinforced. Radio switched to narrowband for better communication with other city entities. The water stats began unidirectional flushing system program and scheduled regular flushing in problem areas. Expanded our use of automatic flush valves by installing units and adding timings. Began a water meter replacement program and pressure reducing valve maintenance program that decreased water loss by 60% from 3 years ago to the current rate of 27% within antiquated piping system. Street stats, constructed sub-pavement stone wall at the intersection of Spring and Center to stabilize street structure. Finished FEMA-funded drainage and street repairs. Repaired several problem areas that were previously constructed with inadequate sub-base. Re-roofed the office and maintenance building with FEMA funds from the storm. Finished the year 2012 and started the year 2013 with Lake Lucerne improvements and repaving. For the CAPC reported a 9.6 increase in overall tax increases from 2011. As the first year of 2013, as of the first year, I'll get it right in a minute, 2013 January, CAPC has already seen a 14% increase in revenues from January 2012, an indication of marketing strategies and advertising appear to be on point. During 2012, the CAPC calculated $1.8 million in free public relations from print entities only. They would include such publications as the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Cityscapes, Tulsa World, Chicago Sun-Times, Kansas City Star, Springfield News Leader, St. Louis Dispatch, and others. The Arkansas Gazette's statewide attention is attributed with nearly $443,000 in positive stories about the good things in Eureka Springs. Of note, this figure does not include radio, television, or internet, where it is estimated an additional $1 million in free public relations was generated. Carroll County during 2012 was consistently the fifth largest tourism revenue-producing county in Arkansas. This is very important, as Eureka Springs is the main city within Carroll County that collects the overall tourism tax. The tax through November 12 totaled $607,956.99, a 7.7% increase from the same period in 2011. Other cities such as Bearville and Green Forest make a slight contribution to the tax, but Eureka Springs collects the lion's share. Approximately 773,000 visitors came to Eureka Springs during 2012, spending daily, on an average, $150. The city's tourism tax generated approximately $42 million in real dollars spent during 2012. We're getting close. Transit. The Transit Department is an integral department of our city's infrastructure, and it allows citizens and tourists a safe economic mode of transportation, as well as keeping our traffic congestion to a minimum. Transit is a progressive department regulated by city ordinances, state, and federal regulations. Transit also provides city-funded transportation for community assistance programs such as Share a Ride, and also provides private business franchises such as group tours. Transit accomplishments in 2012 will cut expenses by $60,000 by cutting service 1 hour a day for 6 days a week. They raised prices at historic narrated tram tours and parking fees, which netted an increase of $25,000. They drove the trolleys, trams, and buses a total of 149,530 miles for over 10,215 hours and gave 131,720 rides. The tram tour sold 4,500 tickets, which is up 10% from last year. Next will be city awards, honors, and accomplishments, and these are all that we received in 2012. Top 25 Arts Towns in America for 9 years running in American Style Magazine. Historic Preservation Alliance of Arkansas Excellence in Heritage Preservation Award for Cultural Heritage Tourism. Eureka Springs Downtown Network became a certified Main Street community. Tree City USA. Since 1982, Eureka Springs is the oldest tree city in Arkansas for 30 years. Completed the projects of our energy efficient conservation grant awarded by the Arkansas Energy Office of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. First solar panel installation in Eureka Springs, a solar collector and steam washing system for the trolley fleet at the trolley maintenance facility on Highway 62 West. A Eureka Springs greenhouse gas emissions inventory and the mayor's climate action plan replacement of streetlights in Basin Park and throughout town with LED lighting. Energy efficient HVACs, upgrades, and interior storm windows were installed in the city auditorium. 3 City of Distinctions awards from the Arkansas Municipal League and Arkansas Business Magazine for green initiatives, tourism development, and historic Main Street preservation. Eureka Springs was named to the Circle of Champions for America and Bloom International Community Competitions. Eureka Springs received grant funding from the Arkansas Arts Councils to create a musical sculpture on North Main Street, and from the Arkansas Urban Forestry Commission for a wetlands preservation project at Cardinal Spring and Harmon Park. The Office of the Mayor was represented at the Arkansas Municipal League Winter Conference, Arkansas Rural Development Conference, Arkansas Governor's Tourism Conference, Arkansas Historic Preservation Conference, National Alliance of Preservation Commission's Forum Sustainable Communities Summit, and Eureka Springs Legislative Luncheon. The building official, total permits issued were 334. New construction permits were 24, and renovation permits were 16. Now the part everybody's waiting for, the conclusion. Our city government is structured in such a manner that allows it to serve the citizens regardless who holds the elected offices at any given time. It is our job as those elected officials to provide the best services for the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. We must remember that standard regardless if we agree or disagree at the council table or out in the public. I hope the year 2013 brings our citizens and our city much prosperity and well-being. I, as your mayor, will work towards that goal. Thank you. The end.
Thank you, Morris.
Short and sweet. Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. Second. The changes, deletions, additions to thereof, accepted as is.
Oh,
Oh, okay, I've got one here. The item labeled City of Distinction Award Cruise and Associates needs to be removed for the time being.
what now?
It's actually below approval of the minutes at the top of
okay.
top of the list.
It'll be March 11th.
I'm sorry,
It'll be March 11th.
March 11th. Okay, my bad. Okay. Any others? If not, all in favor as it is?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next will be approval of the minutes of February the 11th, 2013.
Move to approve.
A second. Floor is open. Any changes, deletions, additions, corrections? If not, all in favor of the minutes being as they are, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? They are approved. Next will be commission, committee, authority reports and expired terms. Beverly is here for planning commission.
I just want to let you know that the planning meeting for tomorrow, the 26th, is canceled because we do not have a quorum. One of our members is on vacation and we only had 4, so that is canceled. And I sent y'all an email about maybe reconsidering that other city employees could sit at our table, so that's up to y'all. Glenna gave me an update on the zoning map, and she said that she spoke to them at the county, and the parcel map is supposed to be completed by the county by the end of this month. And once we get that, then we can start on the overlays, and I'll just keep updating you on how that's going. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know if you got any phone calls or read about something in the paper that planning is talking about changing B&Bs and how many can be in a B&B. We just started that process. Any citizen can bring something forward in the Planning Commission. If we think it's a good idea, we'll look at it. We just started looking at it. I don't know that it'll be a recommendation to you at a later date, but we just are looking at that. So that's what that is. Thanks.
Beverly? For the meeting canceled, was there any conditional use permits, or was there anything that was important that was missed?
No.
Because of that?
No
Okay.
CUPs and no new construction
Thank you.
or anything like that, no.
Okay, next will be CAPC with no report. Hospital, no report. Parks, Mr. Levine is here, I believe. What's the stuff in the floor here? Come on in, Bruce.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
Council.
you need that up. Oh,
Good evening.
his
I
Bruce
took my
bleeds all over
abuse
the table.
last year, and I'm going to get it this year, too. I just wanted to give you a brief report on what we've got going this year. As you know, we were fortunate enough to be entrusted with a sales tax by the citizens of 1/8 of 1% to be used for Lake Leatherwood. And it is all going to be driven by this master plan, which is not entirely complete. I don't know if everybody has seen this, but for your reading pleasure at some point. our first step will be to fix the road, and that will probably take all of our allocation that we'll have for this year. We estimate that to be around $175 to $189,000 to fix that road, re-asphalt, dig up areas. Yes, sir.
There is a grant involved in that
Yes,
also?
and the Arkansas Game and Fish will match 50/50 out of their marine fuel excise tax. So it's an ideal time and an ideal opportunity for us to get the road fixed. The mayor mentioned about our new Parks and Springs and Trails brochure that was done in partnership with the CAPC, and we've just had extraordinary amount of people say it's a beautiful brochure. I think you'll agree it is. We're real happy with it. We're going to start aggressively sending it out to outdoor shops, bike shops in Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, Omaha, Dallas, everywhere that we think that there's going to be people who are interested in outdoor activities. And as you can see by that, we got it all. And
Nice.
it is nice.
This is beautiful.
James, that was one of your brainchilds several years ago when we talked about taking all our brochures and combining in one, and there it is. We've obtained the services of a gentleman from the Park Service through their River Trails Conservation Service, and he's going to help us facilitate a series of public meetings to gauge the community on trails in the historic district. We have a lot of people that come to our office, come in, and they know Leatherwood, they understand where it is and what's there, but they also want to walk in town. So this gentleman has years and years of experience facilitating meetings, so we're going to put ourselves in his hands. The first meeting we have is this Friday with a focus group that's composed of about 25 people, and we're going to let him take us through the processes, and where it leads, we hope it will lead to some interest in trails in the historic district, Eureka Springs. We've got our dog park. We hope this year we're proposed to do continuing educational efforts on rain gardens and bioswales, which are a method that the average homeowner can actually do something to help the springs, help purify our groundwater. And finally, we want to start increasing the public awareness of the parks projects that we have out there, and hopefully we'll be able to glean a few volunteers to help us out. That's it for me. Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you.
Appreciate it, Bruce. Next up, the HDC. I don't think we have a report from them. If that'll be cemetery, and I believe Miss Pownell is here. Fight with us to get in. Hey, how are you? There.
Good evening, everybody. On your agenda tonight, Council, you're going to see under new business that there's an electronic funds transfer ordinance for the cemetery. Just to give you a little bit of background on this. This is actually in accordance with Arkansas State Statute 14-59-105. None of us on the commission were aware that we needed to have state legislative approval to be able to do our two little electronic funds withdrawals that we do with the water, Carroll Electric, and then our Eureka Springs City Water out at the cemetery. We've been doing these electronic withdrawals forever. I've been on the commission a little over 5 years. It was going on even way before I was on the commission. never questioned it, but somehow it red flagged with the state or the citywide audit that was conducted last summer. So I was in contact with our representative by the name of Mr. Tim Humphreys. He was just very, very thorough in his explanation of what was needed. Incidentally, this was one of the only things the cemetery was actually dinged on in the audit results, but evidently it's a big enough one where they want us to take care of it, and I need your help for this. What this is that our 2 electronic funds withdrawals taken out each month, there's an audit process that has to be approved by the state, which I've already received approval for it. But to follow up, they want also City Council to pass an ordinance allowing the cemetery to do the 2 EFT withdrawals each month, and that's where I need you. So I don't know if you need a copy of this. This is actually the statute with Arkansas state law regarding the EFT withdrawals. You're welcome to take a look at it. I received a copy of the ordinance from Diane and Mr. Weaver this afternoon, and tentatively looking it over, it looked pretty good. I think that the only thing that really should be included on that ordinance, however, is that the checks, we have to do a check. In our operating account, we have to actually write a check, and that has to be part of the ordinance. And I have to have 2 signatures on it. The check isn't going to really match with the electronic fund withdrawal each month. I know. But anyway, that's how the auditors want it. So I want to give it to them. Anyway, this is for you all to pass around if you're curious about this state statute. It's not something I made up. This is actual Arkansas state law, and we're just trying to, the Cemetery Commission is trying to comply with that. Is there any questions at all?
We're good. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Tom here. He would just like to explain to y'all a little bit what he's been doing at the cemetery.
Good evening. Originally, my communication was for a list of articles that we needed out at the cemetery, not the actual improvements. We have a 5-year plan for improvement of the cemetery. It's just a lack of funds to do so, clearing the extra land so that we can open up plots and sales of plots in the Block 27 extension and the Block 78 extension that we want to open up. That'll give us another 150 plots or so. They'll be readily be available for sale if we can get the brush and the saplings pushed back away from the old growth trees and open up the areas. There's still stacks of debris out there from the ice storm in 2009 that we haven't been able to get rid of. We got no place to put it. We need the time and the money and the manpower to get it chipped up, hauled away, burned at an approved site somewhere so we can open up this land and be using it instead of letting it grow over. We currently have a gentleman, was it Evan Science, volunteer painting science, and I have 24 posts available right now. We're going to need another 36 to put in the ground. So we have appropriate signage for blocks and streets out there. And in long term, we would like to make some kind of a large map so that people can find their relatives and their loved ones without having to contact one of the commissioners or myself at 7, 8 o'clock at night to try to come out there and meet them and show them where it's at. I think it's a win-win scenario to have some kind of a map out there, even for the locals, because locals don't know where a lot of their own family are buried out there without asking them. Kind of unprepared for any other improvements that we needed out there, but those are the main ones right there. And And I feel like they're imperative. If we're going to continue to sell plots and keep the cemetery in operation, we need to clear the extra land around there in order to do so. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Tom. Oh, Mr.
Of the,
Mitchell.
of the mayor, actually.
Okay.
Based on your comments. Thank you. Cemetery, as my understanding up to this point, is funded by maybe sale of cemetery plots. Is
Yes.
that basically the only source of funding?
Cemetery plots and cornerstones? She can address that, yeah.
The cemetery, hi, Mr. Mitchell. The cemetery, yes, we are strictly funded, it's a self-funding commission. Our funds come through the sale of plots, plus we do have two CDs that,
That's right.
yes,
Okay.
and we're still looking into that. There is an issue that arose last year regarding us being able to cash in one of the CDs to be able to use for some of these improvements. We're still kind of muddling with that because there's been so many different, sides about what that money is to be used for. So we're still investigating that.
So, Mayor, and that is not, the cemetery is not a line item in the city budget, correct?
We do not get any funding from the city aside from the city does pay for Mr. Reynolds' salary.
His salary comes out as the city budget. Okay. Is there any reason that the Public Works or somebody couldn't have helped with picking up, like they go through the city, and if you call them on the third Monday, they'll come and pick up all the limbs and things that you've cut? Is there any reason that Public Works couldn't have helped them get rid of the storm damage stuff from several years ago?
I don't know if that's a cross-tax revenue issue or not, Mr. Webb. Can you answer that one?
Probably ought to be looked at, but I don't think that there would be, because it's a service that's provided to the citizens,
In the cemetery?
and the cemetery is a part of the city.
That-
There is, of course, as the mayor says, certain restrictions on one department
Yes.
sharing labor. But I don't know that there would be on that where there's no cost to the actual, I mean, if they were properly bundled and properly put out in the same manner as a citizen would do.
Now, and just as an FYI, last year the city, the commission did make council aware, and the city aware, probably more the city than council, that there was an encroaching issue out at the cemetery where there's property right next door to the cemetery. It's a motorcycle shop that is encroaching, that was, we thought, encroaching on the cemetery property, but it wasn't. That was actually city property. So I don't know that situation as of this date, but it does seem like he's getting further in. So just as an FYI with that. And just as a reminder, folks, this is your cemetery out there in TV land. This is your cemetery. It's a beautiful place. We're trying our very, very best to maintain it. We do have a beautification committee that was headed up by Gloria Stevens, our newest commissioner last year. She did a ton of work, got a ton of places. I'd say probably close to 15 different places that donated shrubbery and bushes and flowers, and it's just so pretty out there, and it was all planted. If you haven't come out to the cemetery lately, come on out. It's just so pretty out there, especially in the spring. We also have people in this community who want to help us to help the cemetery. I know that last year council was entertaining possibly thinking of getting a voluntary tax, much like Mr. Levine did with the parks, a voluntary tax of its citizens to be able to fund the cemetery, to just make it the prettiest and best cemetery in the state of Eureka Springs. That cemetery could be even a tourist destination if it was handled correctly. We have not been able to really make it that way because, number one, lack of funds. Just keeping up with the day-to-day operations is a struggle for the cemetery. But we also did start out with a Friends of the Cemetery account at the Community First Bank. Anybody who would like to donate, it'd be a wonderful gift to leave in memory of a loved one who's passed, or even just as something that you may want to do on your own. We would use the money wisely. No funds would be used without announcing it in one of the newspapers as to what those funds would be used for. Thank you.
What's,
Oh, Joyce.
what's
Yes.
the approximate annual income of the cemetery? How much you take in?
It depends on how many plots we sell. Last year was a very slow year. We didn't even sell our first plot until May, I believe, April. So it was a really slow year. I think our total income was maybe $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'll go out on a limb, and this is probably going to upset a whole bunch of people, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Why is the cemetery not under parks?
Because we have our own employee. He is a designated employee for the city cemetery. He is not Tom. And just to be fair, you question why parks couldn't come and give us a hand. We do get volunteers to help with things.
It was Public Works on specific to
Or
that,
Public
not
Works.
parks. And the question was
But
just...
Tom neither can be moved to another department within the city to help them out as well. We are a freestanding commission that we have our own employee.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom.
Do I need to stay?
If you want to, but you don't have to. Yeah, Tim.
I'm sorry. Mr. Weaver, do you want me to stay for the ordinance?
I don't believe it's necessary unless you just want to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that'll end the commission reports. Next will be public comments. Miss Kimberly Clark is first. Miss Clark, how are you?
Good. My name is Kimberly Clark, and I lived here for about 10 years in the late 70s to 87. And I come back periodically to, I love Eureka Springs a lot, and I keep an Airstream down by Beaver Lake. And I just wanted to share some thoughts with you because so many of my age group are retiring now and trying to decide where we're going to retire and what's available to us. And I'm going to pass this map around so y'all can kind of look at it. And it would be really inspiring to me to see something happen here like has happened with the parks. I mean, it is just the most spectacular thing for me to have seen what from the 1977 to what's today is really it's just heartening and remarkable. On the other hand, there's things that I feel like it would be impossible for me to live here as I age if things don't have economic opportunities and places that there's a real big effort going on nationwide called the Greenhouse Project for people that are aging. And there's one in Bentonville that's been fully funded by Northwest Arkansas Senior Services. And as well they would do one in Eureka if the people wanted it. And the Smart Growth Online has all kinds of things, not just for elders, but for children, because as we age, we want our grandchildren to have places to be and come. And so I just wanted to take a minute to share some of that with you of how something might get organized through people that live here and people that want to live here, that we might move forward to develop some economic opportunities besides tourism, which is great. But if it could be expanded a little bit, then that would be great. So that's what I'm here to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. We'll get your paperback here in a second. Next will be Mr. Bob Jasinski.
Bob Jasinski, 46 Hillside. I'm going to read this because it'll go faster.
And is that your code?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have two issues to discuss. The first being the decline in weddings, notwithstanding the nationwide increase in destination weddings, and second, the need for a motorcycle noise ordinance. As for weddings, there are those who say that weddings are down nationwide. But the wedding industry experts report that destination weddings are on the rise. In fact, destination weddings now account for 24% of all weddings, with the average distance from home being 200 miles. The good news is that Eureka still ranks third nationwide for destination weddings. Vegas is first, Hawaii is second, with Disney World closing in fast on Eureka. They did about 2,300 weddings last year. Now for the bad news. As previously mentioned, last year the CAPC relied on the number of licenses issued in Eureka for the early part of the year to discredit those who were allegedly spreading false rumors that weddings were down. Well, the final figures are in, and they show that weddings were in fact down for 2012 over 2011. As of today, the number of wedding licenses issued in Eureka for January and February are down 22% from last year. And absent a tornado in Branson, expect the numbers for March to show an even steeper decline. The point being that, in my opinion, the CAPC is not doing enough to halt the decline. The CAPC needs someone to stand up for weddings because weddings are an asset that we cannot afford to lose. Now, second, as to motorcycle noise, I believe that a motorcycle noise ordinance would be beneficial, especially now that the CAPC has decided to invite every biker in the country to Eureka. In case you are unaware, tourist destinations throughout the country, that is from Maine to Florida to California, have enacted biker noise legislation aimed at obnoxious motorcycle noise, which, by the way, is the number one complaint that I have received from tourists since the 7 years that I've been here. It is also interesting to note that in response to growing complaints about excessive noise from motorcycles, the Motorcycle Industry Council and the AMA drafted anti-noise legislation to address the issue. And the AMA I am referring to is not the American Medical Association, it's the American Motorcycle Association. They did so, obviously, to prevent even stricter rules from going into place. Now, I believe that this is an issue worthy of discussion. Unless something is done, Eureka may gain the inevitable reputation as being the last safe haven for noisy bikes. Eureka should be a leader in fighting noise pollution, not a follower. A week or two ago, I emailed all of you a proposal for an enforceable motorcycle noise ordinance. I respectfully ask that you consider this matter in light of what other communities have done to address this issue. Thank you.
And then Armstrong is last.
Hello, I'm putting on my citizen hat this evening to address what's coming up in terms of attempts to restrict private property rights, both commercial and residential, but I'm going to focus primarily on residential. This was shown at a planning commission meeting to help people understand that the national trend is for people to gather outdoors, and that's true in neighborhoods as well, not just in public spaces. So this is the direction that people in this country really want to be going. The ordinance that's before you is totally counter to that, and it's very restrictive. I want to mention that I came to this town 40 years ago to make it my home. I bought a home in a really nice residential area 26 years ago. For that length of time, I've been paying the mortgage and the taxes, and I'm concerned about my private property rights being restricted. I think the phrase I keep hearing at planning is because outdoor sales might be a problem someday. That's not the case in my neighborhood. My neighbors are not my problem. I've also worked for city government for over 12 years. I have 2 children who were born and raised in this town. They're very successful in the world out there, and they attribute a great deal of their success to the fact that they were raised in this community. And it's true that the neighbors help look after them, because at one point in time I had to have 3 jobs, so they were latchkey kids, and it was my neighbors who helped keep them in line. I don't think we need to restrict private property rights because we, citizens we property owners might be a problem someday. I think it's unfortunate that there are a couple of people here in town who aren't able to communicate with their neighbors, and so they have brought this issue to planning in order to solve this problem that exists only in one area, in one residential area where those folks haven't learned to talk to each other. We have B&Bs in our neighborhood, and I know about 200 feet away, I can walk out on my deck and look at the deck of a B&B. And when we have visitors in town, especially certain groups, and we can kind of tell by what kind of cars they drive and whether they have bike racks, and they'll be up late at night, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, whooping and hollering and out there having a good time, and we don't call the police on those people. And we don't go to planning or council and say, you know, you really need to pass an ordinance making these people be inside by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, because they're really a problem in our neighborhoods. Because we can walk out on the deck and say, hello, I have to get up in 5 hours, please take it inside. And by golly, they take their cocktails and they go inside. We don't need to restrict B&B owners to control their people because those folks are noisy. The property at 62 and Wall is up. O'Reilly's is buying that property. That was a commercial property that was of concern. So that spot is going to go away in terms of repeated sales. So that problem is going to solve itself. Okay, so now that I've made these statements, I want to ask a few questions. If you choose to pass the ordinance that's before you, who is going to go to the Galleons who have the Hearts Market and tell them that they can only have they can only sponsor 3 nonprofits in 1 year? Because the Girl Scouts might be a problem if they have a 4th or a 5th sale. What message?
And 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to take 30 more seconds if you don't mind. Do I have 30 more seconds?
30 seconds? Go.
What message are you sending to people who want to move to this town and raise their families? As our population is shrinking and we're trying to draw people here, what are you telling folks who want to do what they want to do that's harmless on their private property? And do you want to begin your term by showing disdain for the private property owners in this town? Quickly, when I go back and put my hat on to be clerk, if you would kindly ask me some questions about what actually happens with outdoor sale permits, I'd be happy to answer them. Not one person who's enthusiastic about this ordinance has asked any questions of the 2 people who handle these permits. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that will do it for public comments. Which just brings us to unfinished business. Number 1 is the public hearing for second taxi application for March 11th, 2013. We'll postpone that one to March 11th. Brings us to number 2, which is ordinance 2171, city approved permits, 3rd reading. I need a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Second? Who was the second? I didn't hear the second. Okay. Floor's open. Mr. DeVito.
I would like to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2172 on its 3rd reading by title only.
Second.
We'll have to real call that one now.
Mr. McClung.
Yes.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
Ms. Zeller.
Yes.
Ms. Schneider. Yes. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
5-0. Ordinance number 2172, an ordinance amending the Eureka Springs Municipal Code, subsection 4.48.01D.
Should be.
I'd like to approve ordinance number 2172 on its 3rd reading.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So you got, okay. Sorry. A little hurry there.
Ms. Eller?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider? Yes. 5-0.
Thank you. Okay. Moves us to number 3, Department Commission 2013 priorities. Everyone should have a file of everything we received from all the departments.
Move to discuss.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Floor is open.
In favor of the time limit, since we just received these this afternoon, it would seem appropriate that council take until the next meeting and review these, and possibly out of these then maybe try and find approximately 5 of them that they would consider to be top priorities potentially, just in a rough draft form, not definitely or finalized or anything, but just kind of try and find what you consider to be your top 5, and then based on the next topic later, the town hall meeting could bring some more forward, and then the process could continue to refine until we eventually had what we consider to be the top 5 priorities at least, or top 3 for the city for the next year. And that's it.
Okay. Mr. DeVito.
I'd move to postpone this to our next meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to postpone to the next meeting. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Postpone. Moves us to number 4, the town hall meeting.
Move to discuss.
Second?
Second.
Floor is open.
It would probably behoove us to consider at some point setting up the town hall meeting. Again, this idea came from James back at a meet and greet, and is an excellent idea. It's part of the process for the city to communicate to the council and also help in establish some priorities for the next year, so that everybody's on board and in agreement, and hopefully that things can move forward. So if everybody would be considering maybe something late in March or something for a town hall meeting would be a good idea. Keep us on track.
Suggestions from anybody? Yes, sir.
I would suggest that we move it sometime in the first half of April, which is unfortunately a painfully slow time for Eureka Springs. I think something as important as a town hall meeting, getting the word out, getting people to talk about it, we're going to have to establish some type of a framework. This will give us about 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks possible to, get our act together before. So I would hope that we could move it a little bit farther out. I know how difficult it is to set up these things.
Okay. Somebody took your calendar.
April 8th is our first meeting.
Okay. You want to have it before the first meeting in April? Or make sure you've got all your stuff in line by April the 8th, or how do you? Yes, ma'am.
Well, you're not thinking of a public hearing type. I mean, a town hall meeting could take 2 or 3 hours. So we don't want to have it on a meeting night, a council meeting night.
It'd have to start at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
people can't get out
like
of
the
work.
last town hall meeting we had, what we were doing, we were discussing advertising and branding. That went on for several hours, and it was in the evening. Are we going to have each department head? I got this priority list, and I went through it, and I would think that the next thing would be that the department heads would be responsible for deciding what they had the money to do and what they didn't want to do. They might come up with 2 or 3 things for people to vote on, but they are the final word on what gets done and what doesn't get done, because they're the ones that have to manage their budgets. So I'm not quite sure how this dovetails in with a town meeting. I need to have this explained to me.
It's not for the citizens to choose what the department heads will and won't do with the money that they've budgeted. That's not
Okay.
it at all.
Okay.
It's more esoteric in that it is priorities that the citizens would like to see that the council and the city comes together that works on, be it sewer or water or maybe it's something that's already listed and maybe it's not. Maybe the citizens here have something that's a much more burning idea, but it's more to get an opportunity for the citizens to communicate to us what they consider to be some of the priorities, which may be on those lists and may not be on those lists, so that they can buy in, have an opportunity to speak, an opportunity to ask questions, and to be involved in the process. But in no way is it to establish what the priority for an individual department would be based on their budget or their at all.
Okay, I can see that. I'll go with that.
Mr.
Could I direct a question to the planning chair? Y'all were involved in a master planning process. It's still ongoing. Is that correct? So I think it'd be advantageous to the community as a whole that since planning's starting a master plan, since this is, a new council, we're trying to establish a priority list. Who knows where the best idea is going to come from? I've found in situations like this, one idea may spur another idea. And I just think in this sense of a New England style town hall meeting where everybody's given 2 minutes to address, I think it would also behoove ourselves that we have all the department heads there, so if a question does come up, we can answer the question firsthand, which in EUREKA is always the better opportunity.
I have no problem with that.
I think
just need a
April
date
is
and a
a
time.
great time if so we can come up with a date, and it probably should be separate than council. You're absolutely correct.
Yes.
Well,
Sometimes they run a little bit longer. Sometimes they don't.
day of the week, which would be better for citizens, midweek.
You got to see what conflicts you got with other organizations right now. So
Correct.
Would be the best place.
Could we ask Diane to give us an alternate date, and, since she's the guru of all good things that
All
happen?
date stuff.
Yes, sir.
First week of April, want to see what's available?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Maybe even the second week of April, too.
Just in case.
At the auditorium.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So you want
And to steer away from like Wednesday nights where church and things like that.
Right, HDC's.
Yeah.
to, Mr. McClung?
I was just going to say you need to check with the schools and see what kind of on the calendar citywide. Yeah,
Okay.
make sure we're not doubling up.
Okay. You want to postpone this till the next meeting so we can get all this set up?
Motion to postpone till the next
Second.
meeting.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Postpone. Brings us to number 5, ordinance 2173, parking fines and time limits. Will be a third reading. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open. Ms. Schneider.
Before we even get into any further discussion on this, we need, I don't know, is everybody looking at their newest one where we added the parking in a red zone? That needs to be removed, deleted, ignored, re-amended, whatever. We don't have a category called parking, red zone parking, because every red zone is a different reason for being red. Sometimes it's a hydrant, sometimes it's the fire department, sometimes it's, whatever. So the fines would be according, to that, like where it says blocking a fire station, $100, the hydrant, the whole 9 yards. So we need to remove the new number 10, parking in a red zone, because there is no such category as its own thing.
Well, they are no parking zones. They are more seriously a no parking zone than a loading zone. In other words, you don't park there anytime, but it isn't covered anywhere else here. For instance, the red zone on, explain the red zone on Spring Street.
Red zones are designated for specific